So I'm Susan. I have lived in Burwell since 2002. I am currently a health and wellbeing coach. I work for the NHS, but that's soon going to change because I'm about to try on retirement to see if it fits all right. I am not very good at drawing or painting, never have been. I am honestly the worst artist ever. However, I'm hoping that I can learn how to watercolour paint. If I can do that, they're going on the wall, they're getting framed. It wasn't until I was 17, in the middle of a French class, every Monday morning he'd ask us, what did you do at the weekend? So I told him, and he said to me in French, oh, so you didn't go to church? And I said, no, I didn't. And he went, oh, so you're not a Christian? And it was in that moment, that sense of, actually I'm not. Not because I don't go to church, but because I'm not living like one, or I'm not committed to that way of life. So I said no, and as I said no, I felt it was almost like there was a pain inside. I didn't want to not be a Christian. So he then asked a friend of mine in the same class what she'd done at the weekend, and she reeled off church and youth group and goodness knows what. So I thought, right, we got to the end of the class, which was a blur, and I grabbed her by the arm and I marched her out, and I went into another classroom with her and I said, you're a Christian? And she said, yes, I am. And I said, right, I want to be a Christian. How? What do I have to do? She said, go home and pray and invite God into your life and ask for forgiveness for all of the things that have separated you from him. So I did that. I went home, knelt down, did all of that, went back the next day and said, right, I've done that now, what do I need to do? And she said, that's it, you're a Christian, and the angels in heaven are having a party right now over the fact that you've made that decision. And that was the beginning. Life itself is walking through the valley of the shadow of death, but in that, being led to places where you can rest and where you can gain strength. There's a table spread before you. It's a table spread before you in the presence of your enemies. And your enemies can be inner enemies, you know, all the things that your worries, your fears, your anxieties. So I just love that whole idea of being on a journey through life, and, you know, the good and competent shepherd leading you and protecting you and defending you, and his goodness and mercy following you all the days of your life. And you can look for that in the middle of the difficulties and in the middle of the hardships. There are always glimmers if you just look for them. And often when you become a Christian, it's about unlearning as much as it is learning. God comes along and then he writes over the story that you've been told, the lies that you've been told. He writes over that so that actually that fades into the background and it's his story over your life. And actually that's my prayer most days. Help me to stand on tiptoe so that I can see where you're coming for me today. I would just say faith isn't necessarily easy. After I became a Christian, when I went to university, there was a condensed period, and it was really short and condensed, of about 3 days, and just thinking, is this really, really real? And I came to the conclusion, actually, that if it's not real, then what's the point of anything? Like, what's the point of being kind to people? What's the point of loving one another? I feel that the reality of God is absolutely fundamental to society working. You know, all of those things like loving one another and being kind. Without God, it makes no sense.